కరుణామయం నమామి చిన్మయం దేవం సద్గురుం బ్రహ్మవిద్వరం వసుదేవసుతం దేవం కంసచానూరమర్దనం దేవకీ పరమానందం కృష్ణం వందే జగద్గురుం త్వమేవ మాతా చ పితా త్వమేవ బంధుస్య సఖా త్వమేవ విద్యా ద్రవిడం త్వమేవ సర్వం మమ దేవ త్వమేవ సర్వం గురుదేవ. Hari Om. We had a big gap due to heavy storms in Chennai, and there is no internet and sometimes power failure. Anyway, we are back again. We are doing the self-realization, and what exactly self-realization and how to do we discussed in the last two talks. The vision of the self. Essentially, we use the statement of the Lord in Upanishads. Says natatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. So this is arati that is done at the altar. This is a Vedic arati, where the priest is showing the lamp, the light of the arati, which is actually where they use karpuram, the camphor, and camphor has a property where it evaporates, so nothing is left behind in the plate. So essentially that light from the camphor is used to do arati, and he is showing the Lord to the devotees through that light. And because there is no electricity inside the sanctum sanctorum, no electricity other than the lamp that was lighted when the temple was inaugurated and installation of the idol. That's called Kumbhabhishekam, and from then on the same light will continue, and it's been maintained all the time from the time it was inaugurated. And that is akhanda ajnanam. Akhanda, the jnana, the deepam, and deepam is light, stands for the jnanam, revelation of the truth. Because in the light you see the truth, or you see the object. Now, when we discuss this as the priest is showing it, and he is chanting at the same time, natatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto vandikutoyam agnihi. That means I don't need sunlight to see you, I don't need the moonlight to see you, I don't need the stars to see you, I don't need electricity to see you. Why? Because you are the light. So you are the light, and I don't need another light to see the light. And therefore light is self-shining and self-luminous. So in the light only everything else can be seen, but I don't need a light to see the light. Therefore says Kutoyam, I am showing this light, at the same time I am saying that you are, therefore you are means not the idol vigraham, but you are as the totality, which is nothing but pure consciousness, and the consciousness is in the light of consciousness, everything else is revealed, as we discussed how the knowledge takes place. Because knowledge of every object involves that I am conscious of the presence of the object along with its attributes. So there has to be in my consciousness for me to be say I am conscious of, and I am conscious of the existence of the object as well as the properties of the object. All are I am conscious of. That means consciousness has to illuminate. Just we gave you how the object is perceived, and every object in the pitch dark room we cannot see. The light, when you turn it on, only we can see. And when the light is false, and according to the science, the light falls on the object, get reflected by the object, and it falls on the retina for forming an image which is transmitted through the electrical signal to the brain as neurons. That's all the objective analysis only. Then that electrical signal that involves the information about the object in the form of an image, and that is converted now into software by a program code that the Lord has provided, which we cannot break it, and that is essentially conversion of the input into a thought. It's called vritti. Vritti is a software, and hardware is all the electrical signal, neurons, everything is hardware only. That transformation is a vritti. So vritti is a thought. What is a thought? We cannot analyze it other than saying the thought is related to the object that we are seeing. It is the knowledge of the contents of the object that is transmitted through all the system that we have gone through. But vritti is also an inert, it's a perturbation in the mind. Vritti is nothing but a thought, and thought is perturbation in the mind. Perturbation occurs when we see an object, when we perceive an object through our five senses. And that vritti has to be illumined just as the object is illumined by the outside light. That vritti has to be illumined by the light of consciousness, and that in that light falls on the object, gets reflected back to the mind, and that's called knowledge. Just as the light falls on the object and gets reflected into forming an image in my retina. Same way, the consciousness has to illumine for me to be conscious of the existence of the thought and also contents of the thought. Thought exists is the existence of an object is as though translated as existence of the thought, and the contents of the thought is nothing but the reflected attributes of the object. So when there is a light is forming, only the frontal projection of the light that is coming from the object is only forming an image, not the back side. If I have to see the back side, I have to go that side or turn it on the back side. So only the reflection from this end. Since I have two eyes, I get a stereographic projection, and all that we know from the science. Same principle applies inside the mind. So consciousness has to illumine, and the reflection of the consciousness is the image of the thought, and the image of the thought is nothing but image of the object outside. So all that is interrelated. So in every thought, there is a consciousness is being revealed. That's why the Kenopanishad says, Pratibodha viditam matam. It is revealed, consciousness is revealed in every thought. So, but I am paying attention to, not to the consciousness, but to the contents of the vritti. Just as when I am looking at the object, I am not paying attention to the light that is getting reflected, but I am paying attention to the medium that is getting reflected. And I say, this is a chair, this is a table, this is a desk. All those statements are because that is a chair is reflecting, table is reflecting, desk is reflecting. What? Same light what is falling. And we said, even though it's a white light, I see red chair, the blue table, and all that. These colors are only because of the 7 colors of the white light, only that color comes back and all other gets absorbed. Same way, pure consciousness, which is of the nature of Satchidananda, when it falls on the object, only the existence is being revealed in the inert object, because it can only reflect the existence and not the consciousness. For consciousness also to get reflected, the object has to be the subtle body. Therefore, it is the subtle body that gets both the existence and subtle body, nothing but the mind and intellect. So it is the subtle body that can reflect, and in the process of reflecting, the subtle body acts as though conscious entity. And it is that subtle body that has a wrong notion that I am self-independent conscious entity. So everybody says I am conscious entity. Who says that? It is the mind, not pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is infinite, and it doesn't have any equipments even to say it. It cannot even say it. And it need not has to say it, because there is nobody else to say to, or because it is one without a second. No word can reach there. Navak gacchati namanaha. yadgatta nivartanti. Again using the wrong sloka. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. So watch, the speech cannot go there or the mind cannot go there. All that is implied in what is happening. So therefore, the reflection of the consciousness by the thought process is what is known as the knowledge of the thought. Now, what is involved in the self-realization is paying attention to the consciousness, not to the contents or not to the thought process itself. So in every thought it is revealed. If I don't have a thought, then I cannot see it. So I need a thought. So it's not a meditation is not a thoughtless state. So this has to be clear, because this is where the problem is, where we are trying to suppress the thought and that itself becomes a struggle. Oh, I want to eliminate all my thoughts so that I can meditate. So you can do that, but that's not necessary, because that's what Patanjali system recommends, that Chitta Vritti Nirodha, where the Vritti Nirodham means absence of the thought is realization. People think that's not realization. Realization is whether the thoughts are there, whether the thoughts are not there. It is the light of consciousness that is getting reflected. When the thoughts are not there, what is getting reflected? The thoughtless mind only getting reflected, because I am conscious of the existence of the mind without thoughts. That means mind is still an object for me to see. So this is essentially witnessing consciousness, witnessing the absence of the thoughtless mind. Well, how does witnessing consciousness? Witnessing consciousness does not witness either. It is the mind observing the mind, which doesn't have a thoughts. So it's not going beyond the mind and the absence of the mind, all that, and mind has to be killed, and all those statements are used in order to understand the self-realization. That's not what it is. Mind has a problem. It is the mind that requires self-realization, and because self doesn't need self-realization. Self is one without a second. So it is the mind that has a notion that I am the self. That mind has to be educated, and it has to recognize the real self. A real self is that which illumines the mind also. It's like a moon thinking that I am self-luminous entity. Not the sun doesn't have any problem. It's only sunlight is going all over. It falls on the moon and gets reflected. So there is a sunlight falling there, and the moonlight is getting reflected. So two lights are there, as we said. So looking at the moon, looking at the moonlight, I had to see the sunlight. That's the sun, that is the meditation. Now apply the same technique here in self-realization. Looking at every thought is getting reflected by the consciousness reflects every thought, and that reflected consciousness involves coming back to the mind and involves the knowledge of the thoughts. So looking at every thought as the thought comes, and consciousness is there falling on it, and then reflected consciousness coming out. So I can only see reflected because I have a knowledge of the thought. That means I am conscious of the reflected consciousness from the thought. So looking at the knowledge of the thought, recognize that original consciousness because of which the thought is revealed. That involves the knowledge of the thought. So therefore, if the meditation is not paying attention to the object that is coming in, not paying object that is there, but only the light that is coming out of that is what has to be recognized, and that is the knowledge of the thought. So in every knowledge the thought is the consciousness is revealed, is essentially involves constant meditation on the consciousness that is getting revealed in every thought. Since thoughts are going so fast, I provide a means so that thoughts don't go fast. So what do? I provide a same thought and the same thought and the same thought, or similar thought directing in that, or to the thoughts that are Vedantic thought that is pointing in the direction. So instead of any other thought, I am now shifting my attention to that because of which consciousness is being revealed. So even this talk itself, as you hear, when you pay attention to not the contents of the thought, but using the understanding of what the talk is being pointing out, and shift your attention to that consciousness because of which thought itself is being revealed. These are Vedantic thoughts, and instead of some other gaga boo thoughts. So what we are providing is only a means so that I can shift my attention. Without the thoughts, it's difficult to pay attention to thoughtless mind, because it is a thoughtless mind has to pay attention to the thoughtless mind, because mind has to be there to pay attention. There is nothing else. So the mind has to observe the mind. Now mind can observe the thoughts mind, or mind can observe the thoughtless mind. Both are objects. So thoughtless mind is also an object for an observation. So silence is also an object of observation. Don't say that silence, there is nothing else. Silence, it is a mind that is silent, and that itself is an object for meditation. So which one is, but if you can silence and then can contemplate, do it. But that itself could be a struggle, and you don't need to do it, but you can have a thought of the Lord or thought of the Vedanta, trying to find out what it is. So that is essentially involves constant meditation on the truth that is being revealed by Vedanta. It says you are that consciousness that illumines every thought. Tattvamasi. That's what Tattvamasi means now. So that it says Tattvamasi, I am equating this to that. All that is only a steps in trying to reach this one. So self-realization involves understanding what is Tattvamasi also involved. And now this is the constant meditation, awareness of this. I am that, I am that, I am that, until it becomes spontaneous. So I had to make an effort to contemplate on the light that is being reflected, and from the reflected light I had to see the original light, because there cannot be reflected light unless there is original light, and the original light cannot be seen without the reflection. So all that is involved, just as remembering the moon, there is a sunlight that is falling on that, and I cannot see the sunlight directly, I am only seeing the moonlight that is coming out. So using the moonlight, I had to shift my attention to the light that illumines the moon also, or the source of the moonlight. The problem here is it's the moon that is having a problem. Moon thinks I am self-luminous entity. So the moon has to think that looking at its own the luminosity and looking at that, then contemplate on that because of which it is. Or moon can look at the objects on the earth and say, I am illumining the objects, because in the moonlight only one can see in the full moon night. So suppose moon is looking at it and say, I am illumining the object there. That means I am conscious of the object there. But what your moon is looking is the sunlight that is falling on it. It is getting reflected by the moon, falls on the object and gets reflected back to the moon, and moon says, I can see objects there. What is seeing is sunlight back again. So it is the paying attention to what exactly I am seeing, well I am seeing, is essentially what is involved in that. So this is what essentially involves self-realization. It's a constant mental attention to that and that alone. And the more you do it, the more you get absorbed into it. So it remember the Krishna statement, by abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha krishnate. By constant practice and practice and practice, one recognizes that I am the light of consciousness. Because when I say I am conscious entity, I am the light of consciousness that is. And I am existent entity, therefore I am the existence. So tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. In that light only everything is revealed. So every object is revealed only by the light of consciousness that I am. And do that by constant awareness of that is only one can see. So here, so the meditation and recognition and the knowledge all are of the same type, and one needs to know that. Now we go into a little bit of what exactly Tattvamasi and Saranagati. Here we are trying to combine two concepts. Saranagati is surrendering. So I have to surrender. So what is that I have to surrender? It is the ego that has the notions. Ego is ahankara. That's the one that needs to have the wrong notions and has to have the right understanding. That's why scripture says, through that ego only, go to the teacher. And what does the teacher say? It teaches us everything is nothing but pure existent consciousness, infinite, and that you are. So how can I be that? All that questions come, that has to be resolved. And some teachers say, you have to surrender. Oh, I am surrendering. Who has to surrender? It's the ego only has to surrender. Now we have to analyze a little bit, because this has been a topic from the bhakti point as well as from the jnana point. So Saranagati is the only means, that what Bhagavan Ramanuja says in the Visishtadvaita, where you have to surrender to him, and once you surrender, what is that you are surrendering? Your ego. Then what do? Then by surrendering completely, you essentially, this is not yours and it is his, and you essentially serve him. See, these are statements that are one has to be careful here. Says, I am surrendering my ego, ahankara, and what will be my role after that? I have to serve him. Who has to serve him? Again, I have to serve. I am there to serve. That means I am still different from him. Therefore, still ahankara will be there, that I am so and so to serve him. So as long as I am so and so, there is a ego. I am so and so, it means I am this. So according to Vedanta, I am this is the essence of ego, and I cannot remove this and perform actions anywhere. So what I need to do is cognitively, intellectually, I am not this, but I am that because of even this exists. Because when I say from the bhakti point, Lord is everywhere. I had to see that even this is Lord. So what is that? Everything is nothing but the Lord and Lord alone. And recognition of that is the surrendering of the ego. What is Saranagati now? Saranagati, the correct is, I am this, but this is to be surrendered, but I cannot surrender this completely, because for the operation I need this, for transactions, and even surrendering I need this only. Therefore, what is surrendered is my understanding that I am this notion has to be surrendered. That notion can be surrendered by recognizing that this is also the whole universe only, which is nothing but the Lord only. Because Lord has become everything. If I understand, that's where Vedanta comes into picture. Lord has become everything, or the pure Satchidananda has become everything. Both statements are same. So, don't say, I have become everything. I am, if I understood as a Satchidananda, then that statement is valid. I am, if you understand it as a ego, then it's not. Ego is only this only. So the problem is, these are strong. The ego is inherently, deeply rooted in the individual. So I am surrendering. I may state that, but that doesn't happen so easily. So they call in the Visishtadvaita also called Bharanyasam, where they go through the ritual of surrendering, and from then on you are a servant of the Lord. They put Shanku Chakra here. Indicative, in fact, is that this is a Samasranam. It's called Bharanyasam. Bharanyasam means you completely surrender to him, and this is indication that this belongs to the Lord. If you have clear understanding, Of course, that ritual is helpful to make that understanding, that's okay. But understanding that this belongs to the Lord, therefore it's only meant for serving the Lord. What is the Lord? Lord is the entire universe. And what is this body, mind, intellect? It is also part of Him only. That's why He says, I am in every heart. So what is that I have to surrender then? I am surrendering His to Him only. Says in the Arati, Tana mano dano sab kuch tera hai. So Tana mano dano sab kuch tera hai. So this guy goes and does the puja and does the Arati on that day. Lord, make a note. This fellow today has surrendered. Tana, mana, dhan. Tana means body, mana, mind, and dhana, the wealth. He has surrendered completely to me. Because I don't have any place to place, let me keep it in His only. But next day again he says, I am tana, mana, dhana, sab kuch tera hai. See, yesterday you already surrendered. What is there left for you to surrender again? Implication is, you cannot keep surrendering every day. Only surrender can only occur once. And surrender can only occur when there is a complete knowledge. Until then, at least practice to surrender. So hopefully one day you really surrender. So what is that I have to surrender? I am not this, but I am the totality. This is the pure existent consciousness. So bringing the Lord helps you. That's why we call Ishvara Darshanam. So seeing the Lord, including the body, mind, intellect is His own, then it is a surrendering of my own ego. Because I am this, I am claiming this is mine, that's called mamakara and ahankara. But I am now recognizing, and cognitively at least, that this belongs to the Lord, and the Lord is everywhere. There is nothing really I cannot surrender. I cannot surrender His to Him only. Like somebody pickpocketing my purse and then coming back and say, Sir, I am presenting this purse to you. Hey, that's my purse. Yes, this is yours. I took it, but I am giving it back. So you should be grateful to me. So this is what essentially our surrendering says. Oh Lord, this is yours, but I am giving it to you because I have a wrong notion that this is mine. What I am surrendering is this wrong notion that this is mine. So from then on, says what is that? All actions have to be recognized that it is the Lord that is performing the action. So that essentially involves surrendering. So even this body, mind, intellect, even though I am using it, but I have to use for the purpose of the Lord because it is His. So ahankara vimudatma kartara manyate. Kartaram manyate. So one who thinks that with the one who egotistical fellow, he says, I am doing it. Who is doing it? Hey, I am doing it. I did myself, and he was showing his body and all that. He said, the body belongs to him. How can you do it? Body belongs to him, mind belongs to him, everything belongs to him only. So how can you surrender anything at all? If it is mine, I had to surrender. If nothing is mine, how can I surrender then? But the very fact of recognition that this is not mine itself is a surrender. So what is Sharanagati? Sharanagati is seeing the presence of the Lord in your own body and recognize that it is the body of the Lord only, because without Him nothing can be done. So Sharanagati now cognitively when I see, I am able to, the body is able to breathe, the body is able to eat, the body is able to see, all senses are able to grasp the sense object, and mind is able to think, and intellect is able to analyze. All that is because of Him only. Without that, no life can pulsate. So the very fact that I am alive is the presence of the Lord. If I recognize that, that becomes a surrender. That becomes a Sharanagati. And that is real Sharanagati. All other is means towards that. Until then, I can surrender completely, slowly, until it becomes a factual surrenderance. So Sharanagati is, I am this. That notion has to be surrendered. It says, this is Lord's, you can say. So I am, and therefore this, the whole thing, then who am I? There cannot be thing anymore. I can say I am again this, because everything is him only. All I can say is I am. But using Vedanta, I am is pure conscious entity and existent entity is, and Lord is also pure conscious and existent entity, and Tattvamasi, you are that, becomes a knowledge if I understand now with that surrenderance. So Saranagati can help you, provided we understand what it means. So Bhakti and Jnanam cannot be different if it is a true Bhakti and true Jnanam. So all that is implied in the understanding of our self-realization and what's really involved. So Ishvara Darshanam, Atma Darshanam and Saranagati, all that Jnanam, everything is nothing but coming back to the same, and that is involved is what is involved in either God realization or self-realization. God alone is, or I alone am. Either way it's the same statement, but you can say God everything for politeness also. You don't have to say I am this God, because they will beat you up here. So it's a blasphemy. So everything is nothing but the Lord and Lord alone. So communication for the others is okay with understanding that everything is nothing but pure existent consciousness that I am. With this we stop and we get into the problems in the self-realization later. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.